Elina Noor is the Director, Political Security Affairs and Deputy Director of the Asia Society, and she joins me now live from Washington. Thank you so much for being with us here on TRT World today. Now, one of the main issues that was laid on the table during Biden's visit to Asia was China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region and how to counter that growth. China wants to be the biggest economic power there, but the West seems adamant in working with its allies to stopping that from happening.
That's right. And this was a major policy articulation of the US's approach to China that was long expected. And I think it laid out three things. One, as you mentioned, it laid out the case for why China is a long running challenge for the United States. Two, it also laid out why and how the US is going to try to preserve the existing international order. But I think the third point is that it also tried to set out this balanced approach that the US is going to try to take in its relationship with China. That is, although it's going to be competing with China, Secretary Blinken also made the case that diplomacy will be key and that the US is going to seek to cooperate with China on issues like climate change and global public health, in particular COVID.
Do you think that they'll be able to work together despite the troubled history that China and the US has had?
So the way the speech was expressed, the ball now seems to be in China's court because that's where the US has thrown it. I think, though, that there will be interest on both sides to try to mitigate some of the escalating tensions, though the speech also made it very clear that the US will compete if there is a case made for it. So the speech was both firm, but it also offered a possibility of greater cooperation and diplomacy. I think also to note that the speech makes a distinction between the Chinese people and the Chinese government and its system, which is not a departure from the Trump administration's policy in the past. The distinction is in the tone that this message was conveyed with Secretary Blinken's speech.
There's also the issue of Taiwan, and Biden made some bold statements about what the U.S. is ready to do in the case of a Chinese invasion. Now, the White House says its policy hasn't changed, but Biden is saying they're ready to step in militarily. Do you think that the U.S. would intervene militarily, and how would China respond if that ever happened?
Yeah, this was another occasion for Secretary Blinken and the U.S. government apparatus to correct some of the, I think, missteps that were made with President Biden's mistake and possible misarticulation of U.S. policy. So in his speech today, Secretary Blinken made clear that the U.S. policy on Taiwan has not changed and that it's sticking to its policy that it will support Taiwan, but that it will not support Taiwanese independence. So I think there was some attempt to try to course correct on some of the missteps that were made in the past few days.
All right, Elina Noor, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World and sharing that analysis with us.
Thank you.